All right, Anchor and the Buoy here for you. Going to be talking business today. We're going to be talking financials and maybe even get a little funny, but mostly just talking about business. So I went through an article today online saying that we still need to be, as construction industry and the lending industry, still needs to be on their P's and Q's about recession-proofing their business. It's always a good thing, obviously. No one would want to not have their business recession-proofed, but it gave off a list of the most important things you should do if you're trying to keep your business recession-proof. And, I like the first two were good, and they were self-explanatory to a point that you didn't need any more explanation. But then the other, I think it was like the top 12 or top 15 things you could do. All the other ones were, if you could tell me how to do what you're telling me to do, you'd be a whole lot more beneficial than just telling me to make more than I spend.
Isn't that one of the most frustrating things? Like, obviously, if it was as simple as just knowing what to do,
just do the right thing.
It's how to do it. Like, I remember we had a board meeting. It's been 4 years. We had that board meeting.
Probably
and we were just normal small business stuff, right? So we're going through kind of a rough patch. So we're talking about how to expand our revenue and do these different things. And one of the more passive silent partner directors goes, well, sounds like you guys just somehow need to figure out how to get more sales, and I can't, it was like get more sales and increase revenue and become more efficient. And we're all shaking our heads, and then our other partner goes, and if you have any suggestions on the how part of the somehow, we would appreciate it. And it's yeah, that's the key. It's the how.
It was stuff that makes sense. Like, okay, somehow we got to figure out how to really cut our budget because our budget's too big. So somehow we got to figure out how to get our expenses down, and that'll really increase our overall net every month. And then it would be like, okay. And then he'd go on. We were just letting him talk. Also, we have to somehow figure out how to get our employees to be more productive. We don't want them wasting any time on the clock. Like, he went through like 4 things that were that simple. And it's like, okay, somehow, how would you like for us to cut costs? We're down to the bare bones. Every piece of equipment we have, we need. Every person we have, we need. Our insurance is as low as it can go. X, Y, and Z.
We're getting the best deals we can at all of our vendors.
Yeah, it's like the somehow is what people get paid the big bucks for. Tell me the somehow. So anyways, this list had the number one thing was cut all the time wasters out of your business. So get rid of all the employees, everyone who does not profit your business. Because even though business is good right now and you can easily afford to have people on your clock that aren't necessarily productive, you won't be able to when the recession hits. So just pull that Band-Aid off right now. Go ahead and just get rid of the people who might even be wasting time. Then the second one was to make sure you had enough savings in your account for 6 months.
I think I actually, just to go back to that, like, businesses should always run at a peak efficiency. Like, there shouldn't be dead weight, right? Like, your business model, somehow, right? But your business model doesn't incorporate fluff. Okay, your business model talks, your business plan, if you have one, should talk about running efficiently and effectively and all that kind of stuff. And so, if you've got dead weight employees and you're going to wait for a recession to lay them off, it's a disservice not only to your own business because of the lost revenue between now and then, but it's a second disservice to the employee because you're denying them the opportunity to go out into a good market, right, where labor is short, where they have the best opportunity of getting hired by a quality business that might provide good training or might, whatever the case is. You're denying that ability to them when the market's good for him. You know what I mean? Then holding on to him now just because you can afford not to hurt his feelings.
Well, the main point they made was not to hold on to him.
Yeah,
because you don't want to let him go. It was just find out who's costing you money
and let him go. No, I agree.
Yeah,
I second that, and I'm just adding the second part that
basic business.
Yeah,
stuff.
From the employee's standpoint too, it's better for them.
Yeah,
and employees need to understand that too. If you're standing around doing nothing, you might really want to be thinking about it, because if you're doing nothing, recession hits, things slow down. If you're in construction or the trades, whatever it is, something that's not recession proof completely, you're the one that's going,
Sure.
right? So if you're standing around with your hands in your pockets, you should be looking for a job where you're not.
So the second thing that it talked about was having about 6 months of savings in your bank account to operate for 6 months. And it's obviously different for every business, but 6 months is a long time. And so that right off the bat had me thinking, if you had to float your business for 6 months during a recession, you're taking a pretty big gamble of floating that business. Now, unless you're pigeonholed into having to float it, like you can't let go of certain assets, you can't let go of certain venues, you just have to pay for them. But wouldn't you rather just take that 6 months of money that you have saved up and spend it on something that's going to start making you money now than hoping that you don't blow all 6 months of that savings and then still be closing the doors?
I don't know. I don't think that's the case, because I think if you're thinking of it in your frame of reference, not just reference is the wrong way to put it, but if you're thinking of it like what you're
This
saying,
was specifically written for the last recession we had. So
yeah,
that's
but
the
I think
frame
if you
of
think
mind.
of it in terms of like paying your electricity, paying your rent, your overhead, because that's going to be, for most businesses, that's going to be like, if you're a retail business, your objective is just to keep the doors open and pay the electric bill, and you already own your inventory, or pay your line of credit for your inventory. But if you're a company like us, yeah, that number is massively variable, because you're not going to have guys sitting around for 6 months doing nothing. So, what number are you working with to get 6 months of reserves?
But so small. That's a small business. So tell me about a multi-$100 billion business like Chevy.
Oh,
They
even
took
more so.
I mean, Chevy and Dodge took a bailout during the recession,
Even more so.
and
So the longer your lead time is from when you initiate whatever kind of production, like so if you're thinking of the car industry, right, the time it takes from them to go from research and development, so develop a car, to sales and production, right, is probably 5 years. I bet you there isn't a car that's conceived that's put into production in less than 5 years. I bet that's like,
well, you mean technology-wise, because they come out with new cars every year.
I know, but they started on them 5 years ago, is what I'm saying. The 2019 models that are new, like if, let's say, Dodge came out with a completely redesigned truck, that redesign, those engineers and stuff like that, in my mind, and I could be corrected, but 5 years ago they started the redesign.
I'd be blown away if they think that far ahead. I bet you they start from scratch every year when they redesign something.
No, because they have to retool the manufacturing.
Well, if there's retooling involved, that's a whole different story.
Like they're saying, hey, we're not making this kind of car anymore, and they shut the factory down. They don't just
That's
retool.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But anyways, in a big business like that, what would have happened if they didn't take the bell out? Would they have shut the doors?
Take the bell out.
Dodge and Chevy, if they did not take the bell out, would they have shut their doors?
Yeah.
So they would have took their 6 months of revenue and shut the doors and spent it on something else. Gave it to the shareholders.
No,
XYZ.
by the time they were at that 6 months, they probably have run up all of their lines of credit, because remember they've got to pay steel and vendors that they haven't canceled orders on. So if they're going like that, they're bankrupt. There is no remaining cash. Whatever cash is there is insolvent, because it's going to go to the liquidation. So they were at that point. The bailout went to pay the steel manufacturers that sold them the steel that's sitting in their yards unused.
So 99 out of 100 businesses don't get bailouts.
That's right.
99.9 out of 100 businesses don't get bailouts. So do they wait till they're actually full on bankrupt because they don't have a bailout to wait on? Or do you continue to float your business?
No, you float. Well, obviously it's an individual point, but depending on what your business is, okay, is your business been around 30 years and this is the first recession that has really affected you? Yeah, hold on. Maybe it's a really deep recession. It's affecting everybody, but you want to have the business left over when it's done, right? Don't sell the farm because of one bad crop year. It's like it happens from time to time. That's what you're saving for, is the bad crop year, the year that you just can't do anything about but lose, right? So I think that's the idea there, is that don't give up on the asset just because the greater economy around you has taken a shift. Like eventually things will adjust.
So normally I would have agreed until today when I had a talk with a project manager. So he started his construction business 30 years ago or whatever, but he moves based off the needs. So he's still in construction, but it's totally different industries. So he started doing rehabs. He was a construction manager, and then when a hurricane hit Florida, because they hit them all the time, when a hurricane hit Florida like 10, 15 years ago, whatever it was, he uprooted his entire family and said, "We're moving to Florida." Overnight.
Yep.
It's like hurricane hit, we're moving to Florida, and he said the first 90 days was just
Gangbusters.
Just insurance companies were signing on the dotted line. Bids were crazy because the need was so.
You just had money. It was like replacement cost of the house. Go.
Yeah, and
Yep.
so
Lumber's coming in bulk.
So that same thought is what made me think about: do you float for 6 months or change your business? So you could still be, let's say you're a plumber and you normally only do residential construction, and this recession hits, you could totally just switch and say, I'm going to go start doing government bid work, or I'm going to go strictly to commercial and do large buildings.
I see what you're saying. So in the case of this project manager, he's like a contractor at that point. So he's able to do that. He's probably just got handyman type employees that are kind of, come and go. He's able to reroute like that. I'm thinking more from a perspective of an established, like in the ground retail business, something like that. Like they can't just up and go to Florida to take advantage. So but what I would call that in his case, because of the nature of how his business is he never did go out of business or whatever. He adapted, he changed, or just he chose to go that way. It's like the modern day hustler. He's a hustler. He's going to go.
Do you make changes, or do you use that 6 months fund to just float how you've been doing things to try and save the business?
No, you definitely make changes.
Okay.
Definitely make changes. You make changes. You do a SWOT analysis. What are the strengths that we've got going on in our business? What are we good at, right? You look at it and you go, like you and I have done. What are you and I good at? We're good at septic designs. We're good at septic installations. Like that's our bread and butter. That's what we know inside and out. That's what, if we woke up in the morning and said, what do you want to do today? Aside from this, of course, talking to each other while recording for posterity. But aside from this, right, we want to go install septic systems. So we go, that's our strength. Okay, well, aside from that, what are also our strengths? Well, we're good at machine work because obviously we're good at installing septic systems. A lot of that is working on the machine. So we're good at operating with the machinery. We own the machinery. We are good at, keeping our timelines on the projects that you and I work on. We're good, so we go through the things that we're good at. Okay, what are our weaknesses? Okay, our weaknesses are because of the range that we cover in our territory. Mobilization is sometimes a challenge, right? So if jobs get delayed or the phases get misarranged and we get off of our original plan, moving machinery can become a huge headache for us. Because even a delay in the time of day means all of a sudden we hit rush hour traffic. And when you're in a semi-truck hauling a 40,000-pound excavator in stop and go,
it slows you down. And you're
a 45-minute drive that just became a 4-hour drive. Because you can't you can't cut in and out of traffic. So you're just going to sit in the slowest possible lane. So like stuff like that, right? That's a weakness, okay? So strength, weaknesses. The next thing is what are the opportunities before us? So we go, well, what do we see? Oh, there was a hurricane in Florida. Okay, we're good at septic. Do they do septics in Florida? Yeah. What does it take to get licensed in Florida? Okay, it takes this.
I thought they just straight lined it into the swamps.
I don't know. I'm just saying, what does it take to do?
That's what they do in Tampa.
It's
it's a Tampa thing. So I was talking to this guy today.
Well, let me finish the SWOT while I have it. So, right. So, strength, weakness, opportunity. What are the opportunities? Oh, we can go to Florida. Okay. Can we get our license in Florida? Boom. There's an opportunity. We can lay it out.
They also don't license people there. You just go.
Oh, easier. Next thing.
No child labor laws either.
What are the threats? Well, the threats are we get there and it's a good old boys club. the threats are we get there and there was some kind of insurance thing that we weren't counting on to get. And the opportunity that we thought was really an insurance opportunity, and we aren't with those insurance companies, and
Sure.
getting with them is impossible. And now we've
Or there's a seasoning on getting.
seasoning. What
Yeah.
you have to have been a contractor in Florida for 2 years. So
Yeah.
you show up and you're like, oh no. So you got to do your research. So I think it starts with a SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. So if you're hit with a recession and you have that 6 months, what that allows you to do is that gives you that runway to pivot, to adapt, or to change. So I think that's, if you're just going to do the same old thing, you might outlast the recession. But because you might bring
Not this last
revenue.
one though. I mean,
The 2008 one, yeah. I mean, you
this
may
last
not
one
have.
lasted 5 years.
Yeah, you may. If you were in construction, you had to do something. Everybody did something different.
Yeah.
I mean, you had plumbers doing flooring, and you had flooring guys doing plumbing. It was crazy. You had guys
They would
just
do whatever work came
do
their way.
whatever was in front of them, and they knew a guy that knew a guy, and that they could get in and do. Yeah, man, this last recession was just jack of all trades all over the place, and guys that used to be experts in their fields doing things that they'd never thought they'd have to do.
So this button never works to switch these screens. One of the things I don't want to talk about, but we have to talk about on air so everyone else can hear, is I just don't want to talk about it because we've talked about it to nauseum. Like, it makes me just tired thinking about it. Figuring out your budget. So figuring out your budget, the reason, yeah. So the reason we struggle so much is we have a budget now. We know what our budget is now because we went ahead and just started from the ground up again. But, at one point we had like 16 employees, which for some businesses is nothing. Like, that doesn't even keep them operating. But for us, it was plenty. It was 4, 5, 6 crews, however.
Well, because for us, in our industry, because we're in excavation, an employee also had to have an accompanying excavator, dump truck.
It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
So anyways, it just got to be so hard. We hired 3 accountants. The first one turned out we were her first customers, so we went ahead and bit the bullet on that one and just got experience for someone. Second one,
no other explanation.
No other
explanation.
Don't need any more. The second one came in and told us, they revamped everything, went through our books. I mean, we paid her a lot of money over the course of a year to just redo our books altogether, recode things inside our books. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And we'd never at any point thought we weren't on the right track. We were doing everything that we know you're supposed to do when you're trying to come up with your quote-unquote budget, your operating costs, all those things. Well, that pretty much ended with no results at the end other than now we have a put-together set of books that maybe will tell us something in the future. So then we go on to the third accountant, also a professional, a seasoned accountant. And the thing I've determined is accountants are not regular human beings. They don't think like regular people. They don't spend money like regular people. They're like, oh, taxes are due? $48,000? Why should I second guess how much we owe? That must be what we owe. And then you wake up one day and there's $48,000 out of your account. And you're like, shouldn't we have just reviewed this to make sure it was accurate?
So here's my favorite. This happened to us. So we're working with this accountant who we're having issues. Our books aren't right. Our bank account says we've brought in this much money, and our books cannot reconcile. It's not happening, and it's egregious. I mean, it is atrocious, and it's been tackled and wrestled to try to get them
$100 grand thrown at it.
Yeah,
$100 grand.
And the problem is everything looks right. Everything looks right.
Can't figure out why they don't match up.
She can't figure it out. So finally, she comes in and sits down with us, and she's like, "Okay, here's the issues I'm having. I can't. Here's all your invoices. These all look like legitimate invoices. Here's the income. Here's a bunch of deposits. Some of them match. Some of them don't. I don't know what's going on here.
Pretty close though.
Yeah, pretty close." So we look at it and we go, oh, that's a duplicate, that's a duplicate, that's a duplicate, that's a duplicate. That was an estimate, never did that job. Right? Instantly solved. Boom. All of a sudden, reconciled, things make sense, and we uncover a systemic problem we had, which is where we were duplicating certain invoices
And
duplicating the revenue and the recording of the revenue. So
yes.
everything looks right.
Want to pay double sales tax?
We're doubling down on everything.
Granted.
So yes. So then this same accountant is working on our sales tax. She's filing our sales tax. Now this is happening month after month. Like it took a while. It actually took multiple times of this before she came in and we were like duplicates. And then we realized the problem. So we'd been filing our taxes. So we're doing this. We're getting these duplicate transactions that we're discovering one by one. Before that, she's filing our sales taxes before she's clearing things out. So we're overpaying on our sales tax. So then finally we figure it all out. Somehow somebody one of the partners is like, it just doesn't feel like the sales tax number is right. It feels like we're paying more like 18 or 19%, which it should, for sales tax for us should be around like 9.7%. So sure enough, the bank account revenue, nothing's working out. Call the accountant, look at it. Oh, my goodness, you're right.
And this is why I say they're not regular humans, because they're like, well, it's always better to overpay a little.
It's always better to overpay a little bit. We're talking to the tune of like 6 figures. We've just overpaid. Do you know what it's like going to the state and trying to explain to them how your certified accountants have overpaid, and you're trying to amend mass dollar amounts of
and the worst thing from the owner's point of view is you don't want to file an amendment because you're a fear of audit, and an audit is never a good thing.
Yeah,
I mean, you can be on the up and up, which we are. Everything's recorded, every receipt, every penny. There's no cash deals going on. It's all going through our bank account. And if you trigger something like, submitting maybe an affidavit to something you did, or wanting to amend a report that you filed, or anything, it just makes them be like, hey, they're on our radar. Let's go ahead and check them out.
And additionally, it's just work, right? Like most small businesses don't have a person to just tackle some of this stuff. Like when I get on to do our quarterlies, every single time, even though I've done it a bunch, it's like,
you got to make sure it's right.
I got to make sure it's right. I got to look at this. I got to look at that. And I'm it's like you constantly feel like when you're dealing with really any government agency is you're kind of they're looking over your shoulders what they're doing. You're turning in these reports, but you know that those reports have to be accurate, because if they come back and look at them,
any discrepancies
at any time, which they are free to do as per the terms of having a license, the way most states do it, that if they find the errors, you're going to pay the difference and penalties. Mm-hmm. And if it's criminal, if you were evading on purpose, right, which hopefully no one's doing, but should that be the case, now you've got criminal offense. So you do, no matter how on the up and up you are, you feel like you've got someone looking over your shoulder. So the obvious solution and the correct thing to do is to hire a professional, an accountant. The problem is you quickly realize as you grow up in small business is that accountant is also a small business owner just like you.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like he doesn't know that the invoices that look right aren't actually really customers, or that things are duplicated.
So, I mean, honestly, the lesson learned from me is if you need $10,000 a month to operate, just keep 20 grand in your account all the time. If you generally know how much you need to operate, if you need $150,000 a month over the course of a year to operate, just always try to keep a couple $100,000 in your account, because getting it down to the nearest few $100 it's a continual thing. It never ends. And so if you don't have time to be on it, like if you're an actual operator in the field like we are, and you're not just strictly the owner of the business where you have all the time in the world to look over your books every single day, just purposely know you need to keep more than you think you need.
It's so true, because and everybody knows their business. Like I think an article like that, it's good. 6 months, that sounds great. In our business, 6
That's
months.
$1 million.
Yeah, in our business, that doesn't make any sense. That's like
why would I just keep that money?
That's
lying
like
around?
being completely liquid. That's like having cash laying around the value of everything we own.
Yep.
Every piece of iron we own, which, for a couple guys, we think we have a lot of iron, right? A lot of heavy equipment. But the truth of the matter is it's small potatoes. So yeah, it would be, but because of the cost of materials, I mean, yeah, it would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we also have a liquid business. Our business is high cash flow. So,
honestly,
at least in construction, it's a high cash flow.
yeah,
business.
there is no cash just sitting around doing nothing. If it's sitting around doing nothing, then to me it's profit, and we're gonna go ahead and split that sucker up.
Heck yeah!
So, when it really comes down to honestly, the advice I would give someone about a budget or how to keep a budget is hire a professional. So we have a full-time office manager who tracks our daily purchases. We use QuickBooks. That is the most god-awful program you can imagine for anything. I don't know. We're just what else is there? There's a handful of other programs, but they're for larger scale businesses. And there's Excel or Numbers, whichever you have, Mac or PC.
You know, they're all, at the end of the day, they're all Excel.
I know
right?
they
It's
are,
just,
but
there's all some glorified Excel sheets.
It's how you work them.
Yeah, and I think QuickBooks is the standard, and I think especially if you're working with a professional, you got to use whatever they can use.
But it just comes down to just hiring someone good enough to stay on it.
Yeah.
And you got to stay on it too as a owner and also as an employee of your own company. If you do that, you got to turn in your receipts. You got to make sure you notify her or him. Usually it's a her working in the office.
I think the other thing too is when you're working with an accountant, one of the things that's important is to sit down with them and actually understand what it is you are hiring them to do, right? I think a lot of small business owners, and we've been guilty of this too, is we treat our accountants like they're our CFOs, like they have some kind of interest or financial stake, or like they care if we fail or succeed. When the truth of the matter is, they're playing both sides of the fence. They're working for our competitors. They don't care. They just need to do their job legally. And so I think it's important when you're looking to hire a professional like that to sit down and be like, okay, how are we going to interact? We're going to do phone calls, emails, once a month, once a week. When are you doing payroll? When do I have to turn it in? What does that look like? How often do I need to be aware of changes? How do I tell you if an employee has a question about a pay stub? Can I just give them your cell phone number, or do you want them to send you an email? Right? Like all those things kind of start to matter for a small business owner who is trying to hire a professional to take that headache away, but doesn't want to be left with the headache trying to make up the gap, the service gap of what he expects versus what they actually are offering as a service. So I think sitting down and understanding we've fallen short with. We had one accountant that she understood what she was getting into with us, and I thought she did her best. Unfortunately, I think she had such a Humpty Dumpty set of books that all the King's horses and all the King's men weren't putting it back together again. So
what's really important to understand, most crucial piece about this topic is you can't fix your problems with money.
You can't abdicate things either.
If you think you can just hire a specialist for something inside your business and they'll take care of it, that's not going to happen, because what happens when that person leaves is it's just going to turn right back to crap, because you have to fix yourself as a business owner. You have to fix yourself as a business owner. You can't just hire an accountant and expect them to take care of everything. I would like to think that the people who run large businesses who never really see the books because they're just busy with doing other things, they hire CFOs, things like that, don't really know what they're doing, and they pay people to take care of their problems, but really they could take care of their problems themselves. You have to understand your problems, your personal problems. You have to understand where you're falling short, and you can't just pay your problems away.
Yeah, and I think every business is different. Like when I read business books, which I'm often doing, there's like two kinds of major business owners. There's the business owner who built it out of their garage, who knows his business inside and out, who seemingly doesn't care about the wealth and the numbers and the sales goals, cares about the product, cares about the process. There's that guy, right? Your Steve Jobs, your Bill Gates, then your Jeff Bezos, and then you've got the other guy who is like your Lee Iacocca, who comes in, takes over an established business like Chrysler and runs it. He doesn't know how to run the factory. He doesn't know how to build a car. He doesn't know how to engineer a V8. He doesn't know any of that stuff. But they're the ones that come in, and they're the ones who read the books and see the management team and manage the managers and manage the trainers and manage the, you know what I mean? Like,
sure, but the key is you can hire an engineer to design an engine for you. That's not what I mean. You can't hire someone to run your business.
No, you've got to be, I think that like the ones that have the idea, they have like a trajectory, and they do hire CFOs and they do hire the others. And then there's the others that are like the managers that are managing the leftover dream of the guy that
You can hire the most competent person in the world, but they can't read your mind.
yeah.
And so they'll make decisions based on what they think the best decision would be at the time or for the long-term goals that you've set. But they still don't know the exact thing you would do, and it could still surprise you, and you can say, I would not have made that decision.
So how often is it? How often should you communicate with your accountant? Like how often should you be reaching out to them? And what should you reach out to them about?
I mean, I'll give you the perfect world answer. I would say every time you have to take money out of your account and pay somebody something. So if your quarterlies are due once a quarter for everything, you talk to your accountant maybe once every couple months, so there's time to make adjustments. If you have to pay certain taxes monthly, you talk to them every single month. Otherwise, we have our office manager do a lot of the payroll communication. So, because that's really an ancillary task. So, I would say you communicate as much as you need to when money's involved.
Let's talk about payroll, and let's talk about time thieves.
Let's talk about time thieves.
The worst and most common construction criminal of all.
Let's start out by throwing ourselves under the bus, and then we can get to bashing the employees.
Wait, what?
So, we'll throw ourselves under the bus first. Time thieves, they don't get the time unless we give it to them. So, I mean, you would expect a grown adult to be responsible and make good decisions while they're on the clock, but the truth is not everyone does. So if you have a time thief, I mean, look right back in the mirror. You're the one allowing them to work those long hours. So now that we've been thrown on the bus, let's beat the shit out of the people who waste our time.
Okay, so what a time thief is, if anybody's wondering, is someone who milks the clock, someone who claims to be working when they are not working. This can show up in terms of they're on their cell phones all day, on social media or texting or whatever the blankety blank people do on their cell phones all day. They physically are not at work.
They're running an errand.
They're running an errand.
On company time.
On company time.
Buying a company part. So
buying
it's
a company
time.
part, right, or whatever on some long derivation.
Oh, I need a part. I can't proceed until I get this part.
I can't proceed until I get a part.
It's 2 hours away at the nearest.
Oh, it just happens to be that when it's raining, half of our crews just are running for parts.
Yep.
On time, right? Instead of calling it a day. It can be, it can be any number of things where you're not supposed to be on the clock, where you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're on the clock. So that's what a time thief is. And they are criminals. There is a social contract between, if not a physical, actual, literal contract between an employer and an employee. If you come in and work for an hour, I will pay you X number of dollars per hour. I will pay so much in taxes to the government on your behalf. I will pay taxes that will benefit you directly in the future. Social Security, I'll pay a contribution, right? There's this agreement. And then additionally, I'm going to give you a break every so often. I'm going to give you a lunch. Like there's these rules that we agree to legally, as well as it's just a social contract. It's old as time. Okay. When you break that contract, and employers can break it too, but in construction, what I find more often than not, I feel like it goes the other way around. It's the employees that are breaking that contract, right? When they come in and they just are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like we've had some absolutely egregious examples of
but you don't find out about it until
way later,
and you've had time to look over their time cards, and you say, holy cow, you had 87 hours last week? I didn't put in 87 hours last week.
Yeah.
And it's like, 87 hours? What'd you do? And you look at the time card, and it's like...
Not 87. 87 is probably a lot, but it's like 67 hours.
87.
In 1 week?
I just paid our taxes last week, man. I had to see the numbers.
Well, it wasn't a 2-week time period?
87.
Oh, my God.
In 1 week. That's...
It's amazing that 47 of those hours on overtime.
Oh. So you look at what they did.
How is that even possible?
As an employer, you're doing one of two things.
Okay, that's only possible in Washington because we have, in the summer, we have sunlight till like 11:30 at night, sun's up at 7, and a lot of guys will try to pull in early, get up at 5:30 to head to the job site so they're there at the crack of dawn.
Yeah, that
So you
I just
can work a long day.
I
and we
didn't do the
have,
math
but
before. I just did the math. That's basically 12-hour days, for a week.
That's 12-hour days for a week, which is totally. We have done it every summer.
We
You
do it
and I.
every day except for Saturdays and Sundays.
That's true. We do that now even.
But
Yeah. But on the job, like for an employee to clock that means he's theoretically on a job site, working a machine.
but here's the
some
negative
dirt.
to that.
So for him to be on the job site for 12 hours, even if you throw in a commute, I mean, we'd have neighbor complaints. We'd have.
Yeah, but here's the negative. You're not getting more work done by having one employee do all that work.
No.
You're burning him out if he's legit about his hours. You're burning him out, and he'll be slower. So you need to take breaks. So you can't just have him charge through unless there's a deadline to hit that's so important you can't not hit it. Two,
And then you play, and then you do it like football, and you got to take the next day off.
Yeah,
You got to recover.
yeah, you got beat up. So you're either burning him out or you're letting him just steal time from you. Because when I saw that and had to pay this employee's been fired. We fired him, and I paid the taxes last week for something he did in October because I was paying the last quarter of taxes for the year. Last quarter, yes, I paid the taxes for the last quarter of
Q4.
fourth quarter, and I had to see his hours, go through time cards and everything to pay L&I, and I just about crapped a brick. I mean, 87 hours in 1 week. Is that even possible? The planning that would be required to pull off that amount of
No,
work.
there's no way. He was clocking us from the moment he turned his car on in his driveway to
That's
the
what I'm
moment he
saying.
pulled in at night. He was probably clocking his pass at the bar on the way home.
Just a
He was
message
he
to
was
everyone out
clocking
there
hours. There's no way.
it's real easy. It's real easy for a business owner or the boss. It doesn't have to be the owner of the business, but the boss to be against an employee, I guess you could say, to be the antagonist. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to be on. Say it's two separate teams because they have two separate positions at the workplace, but if you're not putting in the time you're supposed to be putting in as an employee, and one day you get fired, you shouldn't be pissed off at all. You should be like, I had it coming. I had it coming. But if you put in all the time you're supposed to, and you always made the best decisions with your employer in mind, and you get fired, then that you should voice those professionally when you get fired. Because we did have an employee that did that, and he quit very gracefully, I would say. But he did the best with the decisions he thought he could give.
Who was that? Switch camera and mouth it.
Well, you know who it was.
He quit?
We fired him.
And then what happened?
He left professionally.
After we fired him?
Yeah. I don't think he could have made a scene because I truly believe he gave his best every time.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you speak truth.
And so if you get fired from a job and you didn't slack off or waste any time, then you just you voice it professionally, and it could be a long ways down the line before that pays off for you, but it's way better than causing a scene and being like, hey man, karma catches up with you.
Well, and he didn't burn any bridges.
Didn't burn any bridges.
I mean, we'd invite him back if we had the opportunity.
I saw him at school the other morning. I dropped my kid off.
Yeah.
And it was raining, and school traffic. You got people out there pushing you along like you're in the line to draw your equipment in the basic training, so you can't really stop and talk or anything. But I saw him.
How long ago was this?
Last week.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
Yeah. So when it comes to time thieves, all I can say is you just need to watch your time cards closely and match it up with the work being done. And if you're not intimate with how long it takes to do the work on those time cards, then you need to just get intimate with it.
I think that's where we've run into problems a handful of times, is where we've engaged in work where we have allowed so there's nothing that we do that we don't do, right? So it's not like a guy can go, oh, it took me 4 days to fall a tree. But, but it's like, if it's in the realm of possibility, we kind of are like, it's hard to be a Monday morning quarterback, and with dirt, once it's moved, it's moved. You can't go back and go woulda, shoulda, coulda, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and so with that same regard, I appreciate when guys are a little bit more careful and take their time and plan, because just, once you fall a tree, can't put it back up.
Yeah.
And, if it was the neighbor's prized holly tree or whatever, you could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and that's something I really struggled with moving here was, to me, the trees are dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Like, it could be, what are those trees where the bark's all, like, smooth and brown?
Alders.
No. They're nice trees.
White fir.
No, they're coveted. They don't usually grow very
Madrona.
big. Madrona. I remember I took out a Madrona one time that was, like, as tall as me, but the customer flipped out.
Yeah.
And I was like, just a tree, lady. But
It'll grow.
people love their trees around here. But so I think we've probably hit the segment in our show where, you know, we've been serious this whole time now, talking about things. And we're still going to be serious, but let's talk about what happened on our day-to-day. So, I mean, it's serious, but it's also kind of funny. So, today we were on a job site doing a septic install, and Taylor had to go assist in a pre-startup inspection to do a system install as a designer.
Yeah.
And so it was me and our day laborer on the site with me, and we're trying to get him as much seat time as possible. And I'm by no means a great operator, but I can be left alone. I know what decisions to make to be safe and all that.
So that's that he's saying that humbly because so operators understand, right? Like you've got respect for operators that have got tons of hours and can, you know, brush your teeth with an excavator kind of thing. And so you recognize that there's a gap in skill there.
Oh yeah.
But the gap in skill is not
time.
It's not grade. It's things like not breaking a light bulb when you pick it up.
So that's
right?
where I'm going with this.
So yeah. So you saying that by saying I'm no means great. You're great. You're just not picking up a light bulb without shattering it.
So yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that. Yeah, I'm not.
You know enough to know that there are things you don't know, so you're humble about it.
Yeah. So I'm letting our employee get seat time because that's great for him. You know, the sooner he could be in a machine, the better. And he's doing fine. I mean, he's not doing any worse or better than I would do, I guess you could say. I mean, he's digging a transport line trench. So how could you really screw that up other than going crazy deep or crazy shallow? So I'm just watching him, letting him do it, and I'm wanting to jump in there and tell him what to do. But when you do that with me,
it drives you crazy.
It drives me crazy. I'm more of the type, just leave me alone, and if I screw up when it's all over, I'll remember what I did the whole time to do it right the next time. So he's doing it pretty much wrong the whole way, but the result is the same in the end. Until we get to the very end where he has to marry up his trench. And so I'm like, no, you want to set yourself up so you can marry your trench up. I mean, just think how you're going to do it. And so it taught myself today that the type of teacher I am is it's the way I do my kids too. I will just literally make you uncomfortable by watching you, but I won't say a thing. I'll just be a safety net. Like that's all I am as a teacher, is a safety net. So he started ripping the limb off a tree that was in his way. And I was like, oh, stop. Like, we don't rip limbs off trees because there's a limb in the way. Like, these are the customer's trees in their yard. I was like, just let the limb brush against the machine as you go by it. So, I'm not scratching it. This is a pine limb.
Okay.
It's a pine limb.
Okay.
It's not like a stiff dead branch. This is a very alive, flexible limb.
Okay, so totally doable. You don't have, okay.
It's just going to brush.
I was gonna say because I've totally just adopted the attitude. It's like it's in my way. I have to take it.
It's not like that.
Okay.
It's not in the way. It's just touching the machine. So I could tell he was thinking things I used to think years ago, like just clean the area and start from fresh. Well, least amount.
Now that you've had a few people holler at you for ripping out. Yeah.
So he starts doing that, and I'm like, no, stop. So anyways, we get to where he has to marry up the trenches, and I'm just like, all right, you just got to get yourself positioned in a way you could marry those trenches up. And he tries one way. I'm like, no, you need to go and turn yourself this way. So then he's trying to pivot himself with the boom, and he has his boom way too far over one way, so he's lifting himself up off with just one track. And I'm like, he was not going anywhere when he tries to pivot. I'm just watching him and watching him, and I'm just like, oh, you got to put it over here. Like, every time he'd ask for assistance, I give it. And then finally, he just like me on a lot of things, could not visually comprehend what I'm asking him to do or what he even needs to do, because he gets to where he can see the two trenches and his machine's in between them. But he's parallel with the trench, not perpendicular to it.
Yeah.
And he's just like,
what am I going to do?
Literally staring at two open ends of the trench. And so he swings over to one side and he can't do it. He's like, So he swings over to the other side and he can't do it. And I'm like, from the ground, I can see exactly what he needs to do.
Pat's got like 3 hours in a machine.
Yeah, no kick on him. I mean, no kick on him at all. It's just I learned a lot about myself as a teacher. I'm the observer, and I'm just a safety net. You can do whatever you want. And if there's any damage about to happen, I'll stop you. So anyways, I ended up hopping in there and finishing it real quick because he just couldn't conceive it. Couldn't conceive it. And once I did it, he conceived it. And, I didn't straddle the trench parallel. I straddled it perpendicular.
Yeah.
And then worked my way.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those moments on the site today where I was like, yeah, that trench doesn't look good, but it got the job done. So I didn't say anything. And just everything all in all went fine. But I think it's fun to tell stories about while you're on the job during the day. The plumbing crew that was there was busting out 90s R&B all day long. And it was just like, at one point, it was just Usher, nice and slow, coming out of the house.
So job site music, yeah, Usher. Job site music is like, what would you say, like 80% hard rock?
Oh, it's a serious preference, though. Pat hated it. Pat's a metal rock kind of guy, like Slayer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, well, as long as they're not, playing opera or anything, I'll deal with it.
Yeah, I would probably prefer the Usher over Slayer, but
dude, it was still so funny because it was like, it wasn't heavy rap like dudes would listen to, a bunch of bros working. It was like, man, I might lean over and try and kiss you, dude. It's just like nothing but love making music all day long.
Would you tell me I could just go home and?
Oh yeah, I told Pat while we were on the job site today. So just for a second, if you have kids in the car, I'm only going to tell something slightly crude, but I heard the music playing when I pulled up on site. I was like, dang, Pat, if that music was playing every day for us, I'd probably have to go home as soon as my shift was over and jerk off. I'd just be busting at the seams all day long, getting turned on by Usher.
It's usually like a hard rock and roll or country.
Yep.
Those are the two most common things on a job site. That and mariachi music.
Yeah,
that's the mariachi music. But
I could totally work to that, even though I don't know Spanish.
Oh yeah, no, it's
just got a good beat to it. Yeah, you're just moving. Yeah, but anyways, so that was our job today. I mean, we split an excavator track in half last Friday to end the day
out. Oh my gosh,
out.
dude, that was insane.
I was literally about to make a purchase to fix one of our trailers, and it was the same cost as the new track, so I'm glad I didn't do that.
So that was actually an interesting split, because usually when they split, it just goes differently. First of all, it's inconvenient. This was very convenient. I just finished up using that machine.
Yeah.
I was tracking it to park it. So it was very convenient. So that was the first thing that was odd. The second thing that was odd was I was tracking fine. I didn't notice any splits in the machine. I didn't, we hadn't hacked it with a chainsaw on accident or, grabbed it with a tooth. So
and you weren't on a site with rocks.
No, there was 2-inch rock there. There was drain rock that I was going over.
The drain rock, yeah, but
that's what popped it.
What are you doing driving on the drain rock?
I had already scooped it all out. It was all flat. I had already taken my last scoop, but there was still some in the dirt. But that little track area where I was working, there was that little swell where there was some mud, and so I kept sinking in there. So every time I'd sink in there,
it would suck up gravel.
Well,
into
the machine would want to track left because it would start to canter and kind of, this is spinning in the mud while this one's going, and so I would kind of have, how you do, you feather it, you get through it. So when I got up into those rocks, and I thought I was about to cross the utility trench where it had been kind of muddy, and so I expected it to kind of do that, and it did. It sank in, and I felt the lean, and so then I kind of feathered it, and then I was like, I'm not getting anything on my left foot. Like, I'm not getting nothing.
How easy do operators have it in other states where they have tires?
Oh!
How easy?
Dude, I watch them on YouTube, and I'm like, what the
It's like they make turns, no
How
problem.
do they do that stuff?
It's like, oh, I need to make a left turn. I just turn.
Yeah, well, our machine's kind of stupid.
But you could do that if you had a really big backhoe style.
Yeah.
Like, you could totally replace our size excavators with just a big backhoe, and it's like driving a tractor around. It's
totally, man.
Dude, you wouldn't even need a skid steer then because you've got the front loader on
Ray
the front.
talked to me about that. He was like, I asked him, I said, if we were to have one single piece of equipment, even here, what would you get? He says, I would still get a backhoe.
Yeah.
So get an extend-a-hoe with a thumb. And he's like, even with the mud, you get on those things and you can go sideways up. You don't even need your wheels.
Fast.
Yeah, you don't even need your wheels. He's like, you can be so. He's like, it's a one-stop machine. I've thought about that. I called Cat and we started the financing on that one that we leased for Cherry Hill.
But you know what's crazy is nobody around here has tires.
I know.
I haven't never seen one.
No.
They just don't do it. It's a bad idea.
No, you see them come out in the summer. There's a
for
couple
big
guys.
developments, and that's with dirt that's been handled, so it's stable to drive on.
Well, they just grade the roads. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you see them from time to time. You see them in the finished landscape world. I mean,
So basically, you see them when the real work has already been done.
yeah. You see them when
I
the
mean,
real work's been done.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could see.
With this job site that we're on, it wouldn't be good because it's so muddy out there. The field is soft, but
You'd have to build a road.
Yeah.
We have to use tracks because, we use all-terrain tracks or they call them, well, skidster or whatever, but they're track loaders is what they are. All-terrain track loaders, I think is the technical.
They just have
Catcher.
they just have tracks.
They're
They don't have
skidsters with
tires.
tracks. Anyways, they're great machines, but they, the tracks are just,
They're
Dude.
tracks.
heavy equipment sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just,
I don't think wheels are any better. I'm sure guys out there that use wheels are like, all we ever want is tracks, man. It's like, they all suck.
I just had the realization today buying that track that was the fourth track we've bought in about a 12-month period. I was like, man, you basically have to replace the tracks on these things every year, and they're about $2,600, $2,800 per machine.
Dude, I'd put metals on one of them.
I don't think we should.
We had them on that 71. They've got the little rubber.
I know,
cleats.
and we were so excited to upgrade to our new machines with rubber tracks.
Yeah. Why did we had one with metals?
Because
and Ray did not want us to get rid of it. He was like,
The tracks last, they get lots of grip, they last forever, but neighborhoods, I mean, don't even dare think about unloading that anywhere near a sidewalk or asphalt. Don't even think about it.
we did it all the time though.
And we did it all the time and always ended up trying to fix the road after we left a few gouges in
I think
it.
that's because we just didn't look people in the eye and say, deal with it.
Yeah.
We would have like that. Remember Pam?
The what?
Pam, where we drove all the way down like an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah,
to go and stamp out the track marks in her yard, and we should have just
Yes.
been like,
Yeah, we
deal
used
with
a
it.
machine to go across
Yeah,
your yard.
deal
I
with
mean,
it.
did you not think?
Yeah, deal
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, something like that. All right, so we've talked about what we did today. We went over some good business advice. Do we want to maybe take a card or two out of
All
here?
right, let's do a round each. All
Okay,
right,
we're going to do a round of pick your poison.
pick your poison. We're
gonna-
not going to really play the game. We're just going to grab a couple cards and do a pick your poison.
Yeah, we're not going to play the game because there's no winners in this game.
All right, so should we make up our own silly rules? Should we give each other 3 cards? And then you get to pick 2?
No, just
Or you want me to just do
just read
them?
one.
Okay, ready?
Yeah. What are you doing? All of a sudden, something wasn't right.
Ready? Be required to wear.
Oh, just go back to normal.
Okay.
There.
Be required to wear a butt plug for 22 hours every day. Have 12-inch pubic hair you can't trim.
Or have 12-inch pubic hair you can't
Yeah.
trim. Well, obviously, I would pick the pubic hair.
Dude, these are horrible.
Yeah, but that's an easy answer.
Yeah. Woo. Well, for you. All right, let's see.
Yeah, I wonder about you sometimes.
Get an ingrown hair whenever you forget someone's name. Watch a video of your last sexual encounter with everyone in the room.
Well, who's everyone? Like, it's just all your friends and family?
Yeah, all your friends and family. Of the last one specifically.
I'll go with the sexual video.
You do forget a lot of names. That'd be a pretty miserable existence. Okay. Okay. Have your vagina lips on your mouth or stick your hand in a fryer?
Well, the fryer's temporary, so I just stick my hand in a fryer and go to the hospital and get the burns treated. And so, anyways,
Okay.
I'm married to Taylor's sister,
last one.
so that's why the sexual encounter would have been fun for me. Watch him throw up.
Okay, it's not very funny. All right, last
He
one.
has literally thrown up from stories I've told him in the car.
Yeah.
He wouldn't shut up, and so I was like, "Fine, I'll tell you a story about your sister." And I told it, and he threw up in the crosswalk in Bellevue while we were on our way to a business meeting. Opened the door while everyone was in the crosswalk and hurled all of his McDonald's up all over the ground. And I was like, "I told you, man. I warned you."
Followed that up at the Bank of America parking lot
Then he
with
threw up
the
again
rest
when
of
we
breakfast. And our client, is Taylor okay?
Is Taylor okay? Yeah, Bond saying Taylor's okay.
All right, last one. Give your grandmother a dildo for her birthday and write, "Grandpa will always be with you," wink, on the card. Or never have better sex than you did when you lost your virginity.
I'm trying to switch screens here. There we go. I'm a very selfish lover, so I will just keep the sex I had because it was fine for me.
Oh! Oh, he throws it down. All right, that's it.
Lost my virginity. It was fine for me.
All right, it's Anchor in the Buoy signing off.
See you later.